Carney has just a week before Parliament is set to resume, and his team around him want an election call before that. Will he call it by the end of the week? And if he does, what will this election look like? The Scrum is here to talk about that. Evelyn is managing editor at the Hill Times. Joël Denis Belvance is the Ottawa bureau chief at La Presse, and Robert Fife is the Globe and Mail's Ottawa bureau chief. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. Joël, I'll start with you. I can't imagine a world in which Parliament resumes for a myriad of different reasons. Do you anticipate a call before that?
Yeah, absolutely. Mark Carney, Prime Minister Carney, it's going to take a while to get used to saying that. Yeah. He's put together a cabinet, but this is not a cabinet in which we really expect to, test, get up in front of the House and sit through question period. Yes, there's a whip, yes, there's a government House leader, but I don't think that these people are going to get a chance to really flex their muscles. He knows that he's signaled even before officially launching the race that an election was better sooner rather than later, and I think that's what we're going to see. He's kept certain people in their jobs simply because we need that stability while he runs that election, and I think that's what's going to happen.
I do think that it seems like in launching cabinet, though, in identifying, like in his opening statements, JD, here are the two priorities that I'm focused on. Like, they're starting to write what the pitch to voters will be like as well.
Yeah, who can best manage the relationship with the United States? And Mr. Carney, by flying on Sunday night to London, Paris, and later Iqaluit, he wants to show that he's also able to build alliances with key players like France and Great Britain facing the United States. And he was asked whether, during the scrum after the swearing ceremony, whether he was going to have a call or a visit to Washington to meet President Trump. He said, not for the moment, so we'll wait for that. I guess it's not going to happen before the election is called. I expect the election to be called next Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's the consensus view that is definitely emerging. They don't have another choice, do they, Bob, than to go to an election? I mean, first of all, opposition parties had talked at length about bringing them down, but second, he doesn't have a seat in the House of Commons. I can't imagine he would want to be Prime Minister in that scenario.
No, I mean, everybody knows we're going into an election campaign. It's certainly going to be probably next Sunday for sure. The Liberals have momentum going in their direction. I mean, look at the polls. It's been an incredible upturn. The Conservatives were leading by double-digit numbers, and Trudeau goes, takes some of the poison out of it, and then Donald Trump comes in, and that is the things that changed it. And Canadians are looking at Mr. Carney because he has got the real experience as a two-time Bank of Canada governor. They know that he's probably the best person who can deal with President Trump and to salvage the economy if we happen to go into a deep recession, because he was the Bank of Canada governor during the global recession in 2008. And I'm very intrigued to see how he handles Mr. Trump, because when you listen to him on Friday, he was saying, well, we have a lot in common. I've done business. I've been involved in real estate. I have a lot of respect for President Trump. I hope we can find some avenues to try to help American workers and Canadian workers. So a much different tone than Prime Minister Trudeau had in terms of dealing with President Trump.
Yeah, I think certainly you could see the pitch, Joël, that he and the Liberals are making. You're going to hear, though, and we did off the top, from the Conservatives and even the NDP, who will say, don't believe this is as much of a change as they're leading you to believe. Like, remember all this other stuff that's happened over the last 9 years. The polls, though, are astounding. Do you think they're going to be able to shake that off, or might the Conservatives, particularly the Conservatives, I should say, with all the money that they have, the ads that they've been running, and successful campaign strategies in the past, be able to land that?
I mean, they might. There is still some time before voters actually go to the polls. So if they continue down the path of really charging ahead at the messaging that they're doing, there is a chance. I think what other parties and partisans of all stripes tend to forget is that nobody kind of hates their opposition as much as they do. So just because they feel that the Trudeau brand is toxic, and maybe it was for the Liberal Party, the polling the last couple of years certainly seemed to indicate that, you take him out of the equation, people are now thinking about the idea of, like, okay, well, what is the Liberal Party, and am I a Liberal, or do I support the Liberals if not supporting Justin Trudeau? And I think they might find that the answer to that question is yes. So in terms of setting themselves up as a viable alternative, now that people find that they have another viable alternative, they might not be so willing to jump on board Team Conservative, where before they might have felt they had no other choice.
Well, it's so interesting to see the degree to which For example, Nick Nanos has some polling that shows like Canadians who are open to voting one way or the other. And there's been an increase of 10 points, he said, for the Liberals, JD, and a decrease of 15 points for the Conservatives.
That's interesting. Now, the election campaign is like a job interview for all the political parties. Mr. Poilievre sent his CV a long time ago. Canadians know what he's capable of. Now they've got another who sent his CV late in the game and he's ready for the interview. So the election will be basically an interview for the job of being Prime Minister, facing Donald Trump, and so there will be a big contest. It's not a given for any political party, and I like that. We'll have a real campaign.
Journalists
exciting
love
campaign.
it, yeah.
And Canadians will love it because the parties will be putting ideas on the table to try to convince Canadians who's best to lead Canada at a time of, very much economic turbulence and a neighbor who would like to annex us. So that's a critical moment in our history, and so let the interview begin with the election campaign, if I may say.
The fascinating part to me, though, Bob, is if you listen over the past few weeks to both the Liberals and the Conservatives, when they put policy on the table in response to this threat, you can barely discern between it.
You got it.
They are essentially all, we need to build up this country. We need to look inward and find new markets. We need to break down internal trade barriers. We need to not be shy around conventional natural resources and promote their export as well. Like, they're all singing all of a sudden from the same side. Even the carbon tax, let's get rid of it. You know what I mean? Like, it's fascinating. And so what does that leave the question for Canadians?
Well, look, Mr. Carney has moved the Liberal Party back to the political center where most elections are fought. And he's taken all the campaign issues that Mr. Poilievre was going to run on, pipelines, carbon tax, taking down internal trade barriers. All of these things that the Conservatives were hoping to run on have been taken away by Mr. Carney. And the other problem that it baffles me about the Conservatives is this name calling of carbon tax Carney and all that sort of stuff. It reminds voters of Donald Trump. They shouldn't be doing that. They should be talking about their policy ideas to deal with Trump and to lift the economy, particularly, and safeguard the economy if we go into a recession. Those are the things he should be talking about. The name calling, I just don't get, and I think it's going to really hurt the Conservatives during the election campaign.
I think if I'm being fair to them, I think that it's a strategy, Sherelle, that worked in the past, right? Just inflation, just like that. Like, I think some of that verbiage resonated with people who were angry and focused on those issues that were greatly affecting them at the time. And to be fair, again, like, the issues that they bring up around the carbon tax or capital gain, all these things, like, the Liberals did do all that stuff for 10 years, and they've just now seen the light on a lot of that stuff. But to Bob and JD's point, like, even if it's unfair, well, politics isn't fair, right? In that seemingly having an impact, like, they're just stuck in that.
Yeah, they're stuck in that, and they didn't seem to pivot quickly enough to kind of embrace the mood that the rest of the country was really falling into. So I think what'll be really interesting is as we go forward into this election campaign, whenever it is called within, we all seem to believe, the next week or so, can they really test Prime Minister Carney's political chops, of which he doesn't really have any or many, because he's never held elected office, he's never been through a political campaign as a candidate. So once it gets to, having to stand up, against another political leader and against another political opponent who has been, on the stumping grounds, been making these calls, been pushing forward these policies and these slogans or whatever you want to call them, will he be able to actually defend them and say, no, I am the best choice? And I really think that's where a lot of this is going to come down to.
And he's not used to getting tough questions from journalists. I mean, as a bank governor, you get a pretty tame financial press, but you can see when you ask him questions that he doesn't like. He gets he's not happy about it.
It's a bit testy at times.
So, we're going to have to hold all the two leaders to the test. That's our job as journalists. And Mr. Carney may not like it, but he's going to have to face tough questions, as will Mr. Poilievre, but he's a lot more experienced in dealing with reporters. And the other factor is we have no idea how he's going to perform in a real debate in French with Mr. Blanchette and
not with
Mr.
other party
Poilievre.
members next to him,
Right.
but his
I mean,
opposition.
these are going to be no hold barred debate. Both in English and French are going to be quite a challenge for him. And you know, millions of Canadians will be tuning in to watch.
Particularly if the race is as close as the polls indicate it is. Last word to you, JP.
Yeah, we always say that election campaign matters. This one will matter so much because we've got a new key player who's coming around, a player who was, you know, had a 20-point lead 3 months ago. It's all gone. So we'll have a real contest, and I think democracy, Canadian democracy, will be very well served for this.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks, everybody.